I want to talk today briefly in this next lesson about cooperating with the government, about having an opportunity to reduce your sentence by offering the government substantial assistance. In return for that, if they deem it substantial assistance, they will ask the court to depart from the federal sentencing guidelines. So in my case, the government came to me early on and said that they were investigating me, that they were going to charge me with several felonies, and they were giving me an opportunity to cooperate to minimize my sentence, to give me an opportunity to rectify my conduct, which I agreed to do. Not an easy decision for a lot of people. There's a lot of work involved. There's some people morally just do not agree with cooperating, so they don't do it. In my case, when the government came to see me, I had sentencing guidelines of 78 to 97 months. They also spoke about other crimes that I had committed that they didn't charge me with, and they had implied that if I didn't agree to plead guilty and cooperate, then there would be more charges coming, which could have got my guidelines into 200-300 months. So cooperating for me was not really a difficult decision. Cooperating can come in many different forms. You could just provide some background information about your case and some of your co-conspirators to the government. That's a pretty easy one. You go in there, you tell them about your case, you offer some information. You could supply the government with emails, records, documents pertaining to your case or other stuff that they might be interested in. You could also inform the government of other types of crimes not related to your case that they might be interested in, that they may or may not know about. But if there's people that are breaking the law, committing some sort of crime, you may be able to tell the government about those, and they could start an investigation and start building a case on other people. There may be situations where the government will require you to record phone calls on their behalf. So the government will either give you an issued government phone with a local phone number on it, or they will spoof your phone where they will put a recording device on your phone where every time you call a potential person that might be committing a crime, the government will have that recording on their phone system. You may be asked to go to an in-person meeting and wear a body recorder and have a meeting with someone and record the conversation. This is nerve-wracking. I did this over 10 times. The first couple of times I did it, I was extremely nervous. After a while, it got to be something that I just became used to. But it's something that we're able to train and coach and educate our clients on if they do get to the point where they're asked to wear a body recorder. It's not as difficult and as scary as it sounds. And then lastly, testifying at trial. I've testified in 2 federal trials, one just on a subpoena, the first one on a cooperation agreement. I testified for 13 hours by a defense attorney that was pretty aggressive. I got through the whole situation fine. It was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of anxiety involved, but this is also a situation where we're able to coach and work with our clients if they are in the cooperation agreement that requires them to testify. So providing information, telling the government about crimes that may be happening, providing general information, emails, documents, disseminating information, taping phone calls while working with the government, or wearing a body recorder, and then lastly, testifying at trial. These are all very important parts of cooperation. Testifying at trial may be the most important one because that really gives the government an opportunity to get a conviction, because you're a person that has information about the crime and you're a key part in them obtaining that type of conviction. If you do abide by the terms of your plea agreement, if you cooperate, if you're truthful, if you provide substantial assistance, the government may submit what's called a 5K1 letter at your sentencing. And in a 5K1 letter, this is a letter to the court where they're asking them to depart from the sentencing guidelines. That letter will also detail, or it should, all the cooperation that you've done for the government, from what types of convictions were gained from your cooperation, what types of information you provided, how many times that you recorded calls, text messages, how many times that you wore a body recorder, how many times you testified at trial, what the outcomes of the trials were. All of your cooperation should be detailed, and then it will follow up with a sentence recommendation. So in my case, my cooperation agreement, which I'll include in the lesson, started off that the prosecutor was writing a letter to the judge asking them to depart from my guidelines and to sentence me under 5K1. Now, they asked for me to be sentenced under 5K1. Then they detailed extensively all of my cooperation work, which lasted from 2012 all the way to 2016. So my cooperation work was very extensive, and the prosecutor detailed all of it in my 5K1 letter. And then at the end of it, they asked the judge to sentence me to 5 years of federal probation, which the judge ultimately sentenced me to 1 year of home confinement. So my cooperation was successful. I went from a potential sentence of 78 to 97 months to 1 year of home confinement. My sentence was one of the largest departures in the history of the Economics Crime Unit at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Boston. And 99.9% of it was because of the cooperation. It was a lot of work, but ultimately it earned me an opportunity to have a non-custodial sentence. Lastly, the other type of cooperation is a Rule 35. This is if you've already been sentenced. So let's say the judge were to give you 18 months or 36 months in prison, and you provided some cooperation after that, like you testified at trial, or you provided the government with an important piece of information or told them about a significant crime. They can then go back and file what's called a Rule 35. That Rule 35 is another motion to the judge, asking the judge to take the previous sentence that they gave you and to depart from that and decrease that sentence. They may ask for probation, they may ask for home confinement, they may just ask for reduction in the sentence. But a Rule 35 is getting the benefits of cooperation after you've been sentenced for the first time. So both of these are very important situations that may arise that will give you a departure from the sentencing guidelines, that may give you a shorter prison sentence, or may end up getting you probation or home confinement, and which was the case in my situation. So we'll talk more extensively about cooperation if that is something that is involved in your case. And we feel as though that we can bring you through every aspect of cooperation successfully and with the least amount of anxiety possible.